Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Leprechauns, little green men who vanish. I was 7. The year was 1993. I was sitting on the backyard fence, which was next to a field. One day, a boy named Fan appeared. Fan quite quickly mentioned how he's seen a leprechaun in this field. Naturally, my curiosity was piqued. I was 6, or 5, or perhaps a bit younger, somewhere around that age, so I was going to instantly believe him. I had no concept of what was real and what wasn't. One day, Fan and I were talking about what I cannot say. I can't recall any of our conversations, aside from our leprechaun discussions. I remember being on the lookout with Fan one day, and Fan quickly pointed out, Look, there he is." And sure enough, there was a leprechaun dashing across the field. Me and Fan hopped off that fence and chased that thing like our life was depending on it. And though the memories are not very clear, almost like a dream at this point, I remember I caught it. And the terror in this red-haired, green clothing critter the size of a small kitten. It was so expressive, so scared, and I was so shocked. Poof. It vanished and I freaked out and let it go. I don't remember what happened next. I just remember looking on the fence after it happened. And out in the field, you could see a little leprechaun, tipping its hat, and that's that. I don't remember anything else. The memories have never faded. I don't recall telling anyone this story, for even it seems completely insane at times. I also attribute my bad luck in life to pissing off that leprechaun. So ask whatever you want, but that's pretty much the story, and all I remember. This happened in Sacramento, California. I don't remember the exact year. On an unrelated schizo note, I have noticed on Google that the only leprechaun I can find which is wearing plaid green is the leprechaun from the movie Leprechaun, 1993. Why would Hollywood know exactly what a leprechaun wears? Make no mistake, though. The leprechaun I caught was very similar to my pick, not some monster, but he was wearing plaid green clothing. Interesting. Pick-related is what the leprechaun was wearing. I am certain of it. But my leprechaun was just scared.
I would like to tell you about an experience that my friend and I went through in Detroit, Michigan on Saturday, August 3rd, 2013. It was a typical Saturday night. My friend and I were hanging out around the neighborhood and not really doing much at all. We decided to walk over to Perrion Park, smoke some weed, and just hang out. This was at about 9:30 p.m. We walked over and found a bench that was a bit out of the way and would provide us some privacy to let us smoke in peace. At about 11 p.m., we decided to leave the park when we heard some rustling in the trees behind us, followed by what sounded like laughter, tiny, high-pitched, almost childlike laughter. We thought at first it was someone messing with us and stood up and yelled out, "Cut it out, jackasses, we're not falling for it." This was met with more laughter and more rustling from the trees. Suddenly, 2 small people jumped out of the tree and almost floated down to the ground in front of us. We jumped back when we saw these 2 small people almost yelling from the sudden surprise that their sudden appearance had given us. These 2 small people, both male, could not have been any more than 4 feet tall, stocky, and looked like they were wearing green 3-piece suits. They looked almost like they were wearing leprechaun costumes and carrying what looked like walking sticks. My friend later told me that they looked almost like Hornswoggle from the WWE, which I had to agree that they really did. They looked at us for about 5 seconds, with no sound and no movement. We were totally and completely freaked out and decided to get out of there as quickly as possible. The moment we moved to start backing away, these 2 things jumped at us, covering the 6 or 7 feet between us in a single instant. They were on top of us, screaming loudly as they bit, scratched, and hit us with the sticks that they were carrying. They were screaming in such an inhuman way that it sounded like an animal in distress, crossed with a feral human. They were ripping at our clothes, swinging at our heads with these sticks that they were carrying, all the while laughing and screaming at the top of their lungs. My friend and I were overpowered, and all we could do was try to get away from these creatures and protect our heads from these sticks that they were swinging. Almost as quickly as it started, it ended, and they leaped off of us, bolted toward the trees, and disappeared with nothing more than maniacal laughter. We got up and sprinted home as fast as we could go. We got home to my house and quickly shut the door and bolted it shut before we bothered to try to breathe easy and figure out what just happened to us. Both my friend and I were busted up pretty bad with a collection of scratches, scrapes, and welts to show for our encounter. We stayed the rest of the night. We were hurting so much the next day that we couldn't move without groaning in pain. We had never seen anything like these two creatures before and could not come up with an explanation as to what it was that attacked us that night. I decided to write this after researching people reporting sightings of dwarfs, gnomes, and whatnot. I didn't think we would be seeing something like this in the middle of Detroit, Michigan, but we did, and we know what we saw. We know that this sounds incredible, and you might try to dismiss it as a fantasy made up by two crazy men, but we know that what we saw was real, and what happened to us was definitely real. We have never spoken about it except amongst ourselves, and I decided to write to you and share my story in hopes of finding an answer to what it was that happened to us.
When I was 13, my little brother and I shared a bedroom. He was 11 at the time. We went to sleep at the same time we usually went to, but I woke up earlier around 6:30 in the morning or so. When I awoke, I saw a leprechaun standing in the doorway. Stereotypical leprechaun about 3 feet tall and wearing the same clothing you would imagine a leprechaun wearing, blowing raspberries at me. Pick-related. The difference between pick-related and the leprechaun was that he had a mischievous grin on his face. When I saw this, I couldn't say anything or move because I was overcome with shock. My brother then wakes up to seeing the shock on my face. He then stares where I'm looking at and sees the same thing. This old wrinkly leprechaun blowing raspberries at us. I don't know if he was trying to provoke us into doing something or just trying to mess with us. The leprechaun did this for what seemed like a solid minute. The weird thing is, my brother and I don't remember how he left. It was like that part of our memory was wiped from our minds. It's a short story, but an experience that I will never forget. My family likes to claim we were both dreaming, but how do two people dream the same thing? We didn't exchange conversation throughout the whole experience. We just looked at each other. This experience we went through is why I believe in the paranormal. If leprechauns exist, imagine what else does. If anyone is wondering, we don't live in Ireland. We live in the US.
I legitimately found a group of leprechaun. No joke, and I don't give a shit if you don't believe me. I was walking in Rathwood Forest, hiking alone. I was visiting family up in Ireland. This happened on the 27th of March. It was around 11 p.m. when this happened. Be me, be walking in Rathwood. Started at dusk. Now, night. I had a flashlight, phone, keys, and a wallet on me. The flashlight was a big circular one, like construction workers use. It was very bright. Just usual trees and foliage for hours. See a tree near a little crevice. Its root forms sort of a bridge to the other side of the ledge over the crevice. I follow the little crevice, going under the root bridge, and I hear some shuffling. I get really freaked out and panicked. In my mind, I really thought my life was over. And you may be wondering why such an exaggerated feeling? I have no idea. I, of course, thought of wolves, and that got me going, but something really pushed that feeling. I am frozen in place by fear, finally look towards some bushes about 10 feet away, see 3 little people. 2 are naked, and 1 is wearing green makeshift clothing, like dyed sheep wool or something. A fucking pot of gold is there too, looks like they are guarding it. I hear them say "Bopo" a few times, and I pass out. I wake up 20 feet away from that place, and I can hardly move. It's daytime, and all the muscles in my upper body are completely strained. My calf muscles are as well. No bruising or anything. I can breathe, but I feel like every muscle affected is completely depleted, like I exercised for days and this is the aftermath. I hike back to my car and drive to my Gramps' place. I, of course, tell him and Grandma what happened. He tells me, "Those damned leprechauns, they did that to you. Don't go back there. And if you see them again, cover your eyes and turn around. Shout to them in a calm but stern voice. I don't want to take away your gold. Just let me leave. I'm not bothering you. These woods belong to you." He nearly cried.
My wife and I were looking for a desk at Costco one rainy night, and we found one we were looking for. I was carrying it out to our car in the rain when we were aggressively confronted by a tiny Irishman, red hair, green eyes, freckles, brogue, about 3 feet in height. His proportions were normal and proportional to said height from what I could see. He wasn't a dwarf, little person, squat, small limbs. He was just really small. He wasn't wearing anything special either, just a t-shirt and jogging pants with sneakers. Not green either, but his hair was as red as mine. He called me by name, and he knew my wife's name as well. As soon as we looked up to address him, he started talking to us about absolutely nothing in particular, as if he knew us and hadn't seen us in ages. I was so shocked I simply answered his questions and listened to him react, again as if he knew us from way back.
How have you been doing? What's up? Do you still live round here?
I said we still lived at my old house. He replied,
Ah, good old home, sweet home. How's the family?
I said, my grandmother's well and I don't talk to my mother often. He replied,
Well, it's fine that you keep an eye on your gran. She's danger prone. How's the writing going?
I said, writer's block. He replied,
As always, eh? Keep trying. Any kids?
I said, no, we're waiting till we have a place of our own. He replied,
A wise decision, young man.
he looks at my wife and says,
This one's a keeper.
all his responses were super jovial and friendly, and I barely noticed it, but I had put my umbrella over his head subconsciously, and I was now getting soaked. The entire time I was wondering if we were the victim of some sort of prank, or if he recognized me from some time before, but me, being an idiot, had forgotten him. Finally, the questions and friendly conversation stopped, and he gave us both a mischievous smile complete with eyebrow waggles and said, 2 cents for your 2 cents. He then handed us each 2 new shiny pennies. Then he turned and walked into the Costco. We were both so flabbergasted that we didn't speak the entire way home. When we finally got there, I looked at my pennies, then at my wife. Did we just meet a leprechaun? And it kind of fits with all the Fae lore I know. A complete stranger approaches you as if he knows you, waits for you to be rude so he, a Fae, can curse you. If you surprise him and are polite, he'll give you a small, or large, reward. On that note, we put the pennies in a keepsake box and they were gone by morning. Literally, it's like they'd been taken. There was no other money in that box, and nobody else has access to it. That's what made my wife believe the idea that it may have been a leprechaun. As to my theory how or why a leprechaun would be in Texas, well, it's fairly simple. If humans can emigrate, go on vacation, then why can't Fae? Most of them pass for human anyway, so it's not that difficult to see one boarding a plane in Europe, where they are still a protected species under law, and coming to America to mess with some rude Americans.
This story is from my dad when he was working on a mine in Pasco. Dad is not a miner, but works on building the structures that are used inside the mine. Miners there tell him the story of the Mookie, a kind of leprechaun that lives inside the mines. Supposedly, the owner of the mine has made a pact with the Mookie. The Mookie is well known to locate precious minerals in exchange for protection. He's also well known because when he finds danger or wants to give an alert about it, he whistles in a high-pitched sound. Dad is somewhat impressed about the story, but doesn't give it too much thought. He just wants to finish his work. Goes with the miners inside the mine to install the structures. Suddenly, they heard a sound. It's turning higher, this high-pitched sound that makes your ears bleed. Sound stops, miners look worried and decide to return outside. When they arrived outside, the earth started to shake. Some part of the mine had collapsed, the same part where my dad was. Dad looks completely horrified. Later that day, after the labors of cleaning have started, Dad tells me how he saw someone put some kind of food in a really large plate on the entrance to the mine. Food looked gourmet or some shit. Too expensive to just put it there.
Talking about this subject triggers deeply the Hillocks, and they will try to dismiss you, calling you an idiot, or claiming it's just some funny tale. Don't be fooled. An often deployed tactic of the elites is to hide the truth in plain sight, using children's cartoons, fairy tales, and even mainstream media. The more they mock the idea, the closer they come to the truth. But why has this character, the leprechaun, been so widely reported for centuries across different cultures? The sightings are not random. The tales are not myths. For those brave of heart and those ready to see beyond the veil, I will now reveal the truth about these elusive beings. This will be the first exposure of many as we dive deeper into the hidden history of leprechauns, beings who have walked among us for longer than most care to admit. You can confirm the authenticity of my posts by looking for the Clover 4 trips. I don't like using trips, but this is necessary to prevent hijacking by malicious actors who seek to bury the truth. Prepare yourselves for the knowledge that has been kept from you. This is just the beginning. Keep your eyes open and beware that by agreeing to read this, you will open portals that may result in them interacting with you. This happened to me, and by posting this, I am risking more than you think. But whatever happens, I'll get this info out to you, even if it enlightens only one. I'll have done what I needed to do. These will be posted in a series of threads over time. For now, I will instead stick with asking you, the reader, some questions in the next post. 1. Ancient Celtic folklore and records. Leprechauns have been part of Irish mythology for centuries. Historical texts such as the Libor Gabála Érenn, Book of Invasions, document stories of small, mystical creatures, and folklore has described leprechauns as both magical and elusive. The consistency of their presence in ancient stories across generations suggests there may be some truth to their existence. These creatures were believed to be guardians of treasure, often hidden in remote, protected areas, possibly the remnants of a lost civilization or ancient technology that modern society has not yet uncovered. 2. The global phenomenon of small mythical beings. Leprechauns are not unique to Ireland. Cultures all around the world have myths about small, elusive creatures. Elves in Europe, the Chaneques in Mexico, and trolls in Scandinavia. This widespread phenomenon of small, magical beings could indicate that different societies have encountered similar entities throughout history, further suggesting that leprechauns, or a similar creature, may have existed in some form. 3. Unexplained artifacts and leprechaun remains. There are countless stories about hidden treasure caches across the Irish countryside, often linked to leprechauns. Archaeological findings occasionally show small, intricate objects that seem disproportionate to their supposed use, almost as if they were crafted by a smaller, more dexterous creature. Additionally, there are rumors of leprechaun bones discovered in remote caves, but these are either dismissed by mainstream archaeologists or hidden by shadowy government agencies. 4. The psychological phenomenon of leprechaun sightings. Psychological research has suggested that the human mind has a tendency to perceive things that align with cultural expectations, such as small humanoid figures in the forest or under bridges. However, these recurring sightings of little men in rural areas may be the result of real, unknown creatures that have evolved to be elusive to human perception, possibly through extraordinary camouflage or a heightened ability to avoid detection. 5. The Druidic connection to nature spirits. The Druids, ancient Celtic priests, are said to have had a deep connection with the spirit world, and they are believed to have worshipped nature spirits. Some historians argue that leprechauns are the physical manifestation of these nature spirits, transitional beings from the mythical to the material world. This theory posits that, in some areas, these spirits may have become more grounded or corporeal over time, leading to sightings and encounters. 6. Climate change and the possible evolution of new species. Recent studies suggest that extreme weather patterns and rapidly changing ecosystems may result in the appearance of species previously thought to be mythical or extinct. It's possible that the environmental stresses of the past few centuries may have triggered the appearance of small humanoid creatures, perfectly adapted to evade human detection. Just as species evolve and adapt, it's conceivable that leprechauns are a kind of undiscovered species, possibly in hiding due to the rapid pace of societal development. 7. Modern technology and leprechaun sightings. In the age of smartphones, there are countless video and photographic sightings of leprechauns, usually dismissed by skeptics as hoaxes. But the digital age has shown us that there is far more to reality than meets the eye. It's possible that advanced technology has caught glimpses of these creatures in their natural habitats, and mainstream scientists simply refuse to acknowledge these findings to avoid public panic, or because they challenge conventional understanding of biology and folklore. 8. The power of belief and collective consciousness. Leprechauns are a part of the collective Irish consciousness. If millions of people across the world have been telling the same stories for generations, as we know of skinwalkers and other Native American beings to be true and caution shared generation upon generation. So to have the ancient Irish been able to coexist and found ways to work with these small deities. Ever wonder why governments around the world spend so much time and money on studying creatures that don't exist? I'm talking about everything from Bigfoot to UFOs and yes, even leprechauns. There have been multiple declassified reports from military and intelligence agencies about small, humanoid creatures encountered in the wild, especially in rural Ireland. Coincidence? I think not. These sightings are often swept under the rug because they threaten the narrative of what we've been told about history and our place in the world. If you dig deeper, you'll find records of bizarre government-funded expeditions specifically looking for these small, elusive beings. It's like they know something we don't. Leprechauns in the Old World Order. The elites have long been obsessed with controlling knowledge. The real truth about leprechauns has been buried for centuries, but why? Well, think about it. The ancient world had powerful, secretive societies, druids, Illuminati, Templars, who were said to have been in contact with these creatures, using their knowledge for wealth, magic, and power. The thing is, these beings might not be just creatures. They could be interdimensional entities or beings from a different realm entirely. That's why the elites keep trying to suppress this truth. If the masses knew that leprechauns, or whatever they truly are real, it would shift everything we know about reality. Think about how hard they've worked to keep the ancient magic and hidden truths from getting into the hands of the public. Leprechaunic magic and how to see them, a guide to ancient Irish methods. All right, fellow truth seekers, let's dive deeper. You've heard the stories, but have you considered that leprechauns might not just be creatures? They might be beings of power. Ancient Irish folklore isn't just full of tales of treasure. It's filled with stories of magic, of power beyond human comprehension, granted by these elusive creatures. If you're brave enough and have the right tools, you might even be able to see them. Here are some of the forms of magic attributed to the leprechauns, and the ancient methods the Irish used to contact them. The magic of the treasure guardians. Leprechauns are said to be guardians of hidden treasures, but these treasures aren't just gold or silver. They're artifacts of ancient power. Some believe that leprechauns have access to objects that were used by ancient druids, or even knowledge from the time before recorded history. These creatures could manipulate the elements, wind, earth, fire, and water, using their treasures to create illusions, control weather, and even bend time. Some of the old texts suggest that the leprechaun's gold wasn't just material wealth, but a way to channel energy, a portal to other worlds or dimensions. The wealth itself might be a ruse, a distraction from what they really guard, ancient otherworldly knowledge. The Druidic rituals for contact. The Druids were believed to have a special connection with leprechauns. Ancient rituals often involved the use of sacred stones, known as cromlech stones, and moonlit rituals to call forth the leprechauns. The Druids would chant ancient incantations in a language long forgotten by modern humans, invoking the little people and asking them for guidance. The most powerful ritual was said to take place on the night of the summer solstice, when the sun's rays aligned perfectly with certain sacred sites, acting as a kind of magnetic portal that allowed the Druids to communicate with the leprechauns and gain their wisdom. A key part of this ritual was the consumption of a special herb, referred to as the fairy leaf in some texts. This herb would supposedly open the mind, allowing one to see beyond the physical realm and into the Fey world, where leprechauns reside. It's said that these herbs were grown in sacred groves, and their exact location has been lost over time. But if you were lucky enough to find them, you might be able to catch a glimpse of the creatures themselves. The mirror trick. One of the oldest methods used to see leprechauns involved mirrors. The Irish used a technique called the mirror trick, where they would stare into a special mirror, often made of obsidian or other dark materials, in complete darkness. The legend goes that if you looked into the mirror long enough, without breaking your focus, you would eventually see something move in the reflection. At first it would appear to be a shadow, but as your eyes adjusted, the leprechaun would reveal itself, a small, often cloaked figure, sometimes appearing in flashes of light or mist. But here's the catch. You must never look directly at the leprechaun in the mirror. If you do, they'll vanish. The trick is to let your eyes go soft and blurred, focusing on the reflection rather than the creature itself. This method was said to be especially potent during twilight or the hours of dawn, when the veil between the physical world and the spirit realm is at its thinnest. The forest and the green path. Some say that leprechauns can only be contacted in the deepest forests, where the earth is old and untouched. These forests are said to be enchanted, the trees having stood for centuries, holding memories of the ancient world. In these groves, the green path exists, a narrow, winding trail that leads deep into the heart of the forest. The path is only visible under certain conditions, such as misty mornings or during full moons. Those who attempt to follow it without the proper preparation and a solid understanding of the ancient rites often find themselves lost, walking in circles. If you're able to find the green path and follow it with the correct reverence, you might find yourself at an ancient altar, a place where the veil is weakest. Leprechauns are said to appear here, offering their knowledge, or sometimes tricking the wanderer into a deal, much like the old Irish tales. They're not just creatures of trickery, they're agents of cosmic balance, dealing with those who dare to seek their wisdom.
Sounds like they are just another brand of fae. I believe you that leprechauns exist. I have seen several fae creatures and even been tormented by some. How would they react to one seeking them out of curiosity? I suppose that would come under taking a pact for knowledge. What is their endgame? Punishing greedy humans who seek riches or worldly desires. Honestly, kinda based if that's the case.
If you seek out the leprechauns out of curiosity, you're treading on dangerous ground. Curiosity alone isn't enough to invoke their interest. They only respond to those who truly understand the balance they maintain between this world and the next. They're keepers of knowledge, yes, but also enforcers of a kind of cosmic justice. If you approach them with respect, acknowledging that you are worthy of the knowledge you seek, they might grant you a glimpse, or even teach you something profound. However, their endgame is not so simple. They don't just punish greed, they deal with the imbalances within the human heart. If you approach them out of selfish desire, seeking only power, wealth, or personal gain, you'll likely face their wrath in ways you can't predict. Leprechauns are clever, and they see through even the most carefully crafted intentions. They have been known to turn the greedy back on themselves, teaching them the true price of obsession with material wealth. It's a warning to humans. The pursuit of wealth and power without balance can consume you. But here's where it gets interesting. If your intentions are pure, if you're truly seeking knowledge for the benefit of the greater good, or to better understand the universe, they may welcome you. The trick, however, is proving you're not just another fool chasing a pot of gold. It's about balance. The rewards are not always what you expect, and the consequences, well, let's just say they're not always obvious. Their endgame isn't just about punishment. It's about teaching humans humility and respect for forces they don't yet understand. They may punish, but they teach too. They are ancient beings who've seen the rise and fall of civilizations. If you seek them for knowledge with true humility, they may just reveal truths that would change everything you think you know about this world. So, based? Yes, but tread carefully.
My grandma used to own an old house in the middle of orange fields on the outskirts of Woodlake at the base of the Sierra Nevada mountains. This house was built like in the early 19th century, and it belonged to a doctor who would perform surgeries in the house. I never lived in the house myself, but my mom did when she was growing up. During that time, her sisters claimed to have come into contact with a little leprechaun creature. Sometimes when I visit my mom, I'll ask about the house and she'll tell me stories about it. One story goes that the oldest sister, who shared a room with my mom at the time, woke my mom up during the middle of the night, shaking and pointing. My mom asked her what was the matter, and her sister kept asking, "Can't you see it? It's sitting right there on the chair." Apparently, the little leprechaun thing was sitting there watching them sleep. My aunt claimed it was very well dressed, but she knew it was evil. According to another one of my aunts who grew up there, that side of my family is Spanish, there's a lot of us from that side, she was cooking in the creepy kitchen when she felt uneasy. She claims to have looked towards the laundry room to see a little short, well-dressed midget running behind the laundry.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.